everyone, and welcome to this special reaction episode for the episode 9 teaser. So, I'm your host for today, Irina, and here with me is Felix.
Hello.
So, as you may guess, we are both very, very excited about the teaser. This is kind of a off no script. We didn't really prepare for this. Basically, we're really just going to share our impressions of the trailer, what we think what we might see in episode 9 and everything, and basically just chatter about it. So, Felix, is there one thing you absolutely want to talk about first? And I guess who it is.
Okay, so I think probably I would have to probably fangirl about Salad Bowl or the possible reappearance of Salad Bowl because that was the first thing that stuck out to me in the teaser. And I think because as redemptionists who've been following this story since The Force Awakens, we didn't get onto the redemption story with The Last Jedi. We got on it first wave with The Force Awakens. So Salad Bowl is the guy who looks like he is wearing an upside down salad bowl on his head during Rey's forceback in The Force Awakens. And he's the guy that, if you recall, Kylo stabs through the middle with his lightsaber, and it looks as though he's saving Rey. And then that is just before they make eye contact. So in the teaser trailer, it looks as though a similar figure appears, and of course in a forest, which if you read the novelization, there's a part of the forceback where Rey is in the forest, and there's a voice telling her, a familiar voice saying, "I'll come back for you, sweetheart." Pablo Hidalgo confirmed at one point that it was in fact a male voice. So that was something that we had kind of been throwing out theories about for a while, it could be Ben. And so this teaser has gotten us, I think, really excited about that possibility again. What do you think, Irina?
Well, I've actually mentioned to you just before we started recording, but now I'm going to share it with everyone. Basically, when I saw The Force Awakens for the first time, I knew something was up when the bridal carry happened, but that part where, Ben kills Salad Bowl and it's kind of framed as if he's saving Rey, that's kind of when I clicked and I said, oh, okay, so there's going to be something important between those two, they're going to be significant for each other. So I'm actually kind of surprised that people didn't talk about that scene more. Because, I see stuff like, the bridal carry.
It's almost like it didn't stick out to people.
Yeah, it's actually surprising because, every time I rewatch The Force Awakens, it always sticks out to me. So, I see a lot about the bridal carry and the interrogation for obvious reasons, but, that always really sticks out to me, even more than anything else in The Forceback. And I'm actually kind of surprised that, people don't talk about it more, but I think maybe people will when the entire trilogy will be out and they'll be able to see The Force back, but with entirely new eyes.
I think so too. And speaking of of eyes, I think it's pretty significant in that Force Awakens Forceback that Kylo and Rey in the vision make eye contact with each other. So he skewers Salad Bowl and then looks up and there's, Rey right there. So I don't know if they literally see each other in a vision, as in Kylo or Ben is also having this vision, or if it's just that supposed to be a significant moment that's going to be in the future between the characters. But it's really interesting, and I think it'll come back into play.
No, yeah, definitely. And we see Ben with the Knights of Ren in Forceback, and I was kind of on the fence on whether the Knights of Ren were actually going to show up. I was at a point where I heard so much about them and people speculating and it being all over the place that I was at a point where I was just tired of hearing of them. But it seems like they're going to be in episode 9 definitely, but it's kind of still ambiguous on whose side they are.
I think I might be on the yeah. I think I might be the opposite from you in that, like, I was from the beginning. I've been like, oh, when are the Knights of Ren gonna show up? I'm like, I don't know. That's one of those like cool, I don't know, fandom nerdy things to me where it's like, oh, the Knights of Ren are gonna be so awesome, but then we don't end up seeing them in the Last Jedi. So it seemed as though it were a scrapped idea. But yeah, what were you were saying, like, we don't know whose side they're gonna be on, right?
Yes, and that's one thing that is actually starting to have me intrigued about them. So yeah, because it's kind of hard to see where they're coming from. Like, I kind of assume that, Luke saying that Ben run off with some of the students, like, they eventually become the Knights of Ren. I mean, for me right now, it's the most logical link. This said, some people say, like, oh, it's the acolytes of the beyond, or they're this, or their dad. But now, there's this one person who, is not as exciting as Salad Bowl, but, we still have to talk about it because otherwise we'll have tons of angry comments. It's, a guy called Palpatine. So, I kind of, yes. Yes. So I kind of wonder if, I'm pretty sure Knights of Ren are linked to Palpatine somehow. I just don't know how. Are they on his side, or are they against Palpatine? We don't really know, and it's, there's kind of the Seven Samurai thing going on for them, so we'll still see how it's going to play out, basically.
Yeah, well, and because in the original concept art, aren't they referred to as like the Seven Light?
Yeah, and that was
I'm
so
not making
weird.
that up, right?
No, you're not, and that I thought was really intriguing because I was like, why would you call them the Seven Light? Like, there's one who looks like he has a garbage can, and I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, and there's like a guy. They're all dressed in black, and
Yeah.
yeah. Oh no, I know which one you're talking about. And like, there's one. They've got all kinds of interesting, like, I don't. They look like a gang,
Yes.
like a teenage gang. I mean, they do look like the gang that probably followed Ben when he defected from Luke after they
Yeah.
had their incident.
Yeah, well, I kind of want to make a joke that I was kind of thinking about who Knights of Ren could be. One idea I had, like, oh, they're just Kylo's band from the past who just end up with First Order for, like, no reason at all, and they're just super confused about their lead singer,
Right.
who's, like, supreme leader now.
It's, oh, my name's Kylo, Dad, and these are the Knights of Ren. We're a boy band, or he would not say boy band. We're a rock band.
Yeah, no, he probably takes himself too seriously to be a boy band.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when you first think of them, they do kind of come off that way, right?
Yeah. What's not Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, but like gender bent.
Right? But yeah, but we don't really know who they are allied with, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's also the fact that I can't help but compare Kylo and the Knights of Ren with, Enfys Nest and her gang from Solo, because I don't remember how many they were. And you kind of can't help but compare Enfys with Kylo, like it or not. Like, a lot of people were doing that when the film first came out.
Which, by the way, I'm gonna go ahead and put a plug in on this, that we are going to be doing a major Solo breakdown for those of you who like our breakdown of the visual storytelling. We're planning a Solo one too, so
one day.
Just get ready for it. But please continue, Irina.
Yeah, but I mean, Enfys Nest's gang, they're definitely on her side, but at the same time, it's kind of a big question mark for Knights of Ren, because there's kind of that will throughout the movies to really frame Kylo as alone, so I don't know if they're going to change that with Knights of Ren, how it would play out or anything, so we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know either, because I know that the reason that Rian Johnson said that he went with the Praetorian Guards in Snoke's throne room was because, or Old Man Snoke's boudoir, was because he didn't know what Kylo's relationship with the Knights was, right? Like, he didn't know how close Kylo was to them. So, and then I really thought, yeah, he doesn't know. This is Plotgate. We don't
Yeah,
plan
we
this
all
ahead
know
of
it's
time.
bullshit
Ooh.
now.
Yeah, right.
We all know it's bullshit.
It's total bullshit. It is. But I kind of thought that Luke's story kind of implied that the Knights of Ren were the students who followed Ben after he left, after they killed everybody, I guess, and burned down
Yeah.
the Jedi place.
Yeah, no. I think
So,
it's
but
that,
what
but you know,
I know that I think that there's more story to that remains to be seen too, because
yeah.
I still get the impression that it wasn't entirely like, oh, he broke bad and now he just they went out and murdered everybody. No, I think there's more to that story to tell.
Yeah.
Like, Luke wasn't even sure what happened. So we'll see about that too.
Yeah, because I think, well, just for what happened with the Jedi Temple, I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that, Luke tried to kill Ben, but he regretted it in a fraction of a second, but it was too late. Ben brought the HUD down, and, there's kind of a fight that broke out between, but, I think it's something as simple as that, because I don't really see him, like, willingly going against the students. Right. But,
I don't think so either. Okay, and so to bring us back to the character that everybody probably wants to talk about, Palpatine.
Yay!
Do you think that it was Sheev's presence that Luke sensed in Ben rather than Snoke?
Yeah, and I mean, because here's the thing, and I've heard someone else like say it somewhere on the internet. I don't know where or who, so credit to that person that I completely forgot about. But basically, a lot of people have said like, oh, it's so out of character for Luke Skywalker to do that to his own nephew. But at the same time, I'm like, there's only one person in the entire galaxy who could scare Luke Skywalker that bad, and that's Palpatine. So I'm thinking that Luke saw something like related to Palpatine.
Yeah, oh yeah, the guy who maybe so. I mean, like, because Palpatine's the guy that like shocked the hell out of Luke, like nearly killed him before Anakin intervened, and then ended up killing Anakin. I mean, Palpatine's a pretty scary dude. So yeah, if Luke could sense that kind of darkness, and like Palpatine is okay. So like going a little off the cuff here, like I like Palpatine more as a villain than I liked Snoke, because in the last and I wanted to like Snoke, and I think he served his purpose. But in the Last Jedi, like Snoke's arrogance is so great as to border on like pure stupidity, and that really kills a big bad for me if they're stupid. But Sheev is like quietly dangerous.
And I think that's probably the reason why, because it's obvious that Snoke was Palpatine's puppet at this point. And just, his arrogance and, that kind of kills a big bad for you. But that's probably exactly why Palpatine chose him.
Oh, I think you have a point there. I hadn't really thought about that before, but that makes a lot of sense.
Because, well, okay, but I'm kind of not sure at this point whether it was Palpatine who was, tormenting Ben and even in Leia's womb, or if it was, Snoke or Palpatine. I don't know. Because there's kind of like that question of, how did Snoke know that Ben was Darth Vader's descendant? It's like either it wasn't Snoke, it was Palpatine and Palpatine knew, or, it was just like, oh, Palpatine told Snoke somehow, so, At this point, we don't really know. So, just to come back quickly to Knights of Ren, like, if they are...
Snoke's a really powerful Force user, though.
And I mean, if they are Luke's former students, like, if Palpatine managed to, like, influence Luke for even, like, just a second, and, Luke, well, he's Luke Skywalker, so imagine what he could do to, like, Jedi students who are lacking experience and who are already, like, kind of lost and don't know what to do in the first place. So, even if they started out as, Ben's allies, like, it could definitely change and be a show of, how powerful Palpatine can control someone's mind, basically.
Oh, I agree with that, because, like, we've already seen in the prequel trilogy, Palpatine, seducing a boy to the dark side, Anakin. So, a boy who was, like, a very good person to begin with in the story. So we've definitely seen evidence of that before. So of course, I think it could happen to, a group of impressionable young former Padawans,
Yes.
right?
So, yeah, and, well, for those of you who've been following us since Star Wars Connection, we had a little debate called Benperor versus Benperor. And me and Felix here, we were both on the Benperor
Yes.
side. So you can guess that when I heard Palpatine's voice, I screamed because I had just scored a point there. Well, we had just scored a point, basically.
Okay, so we should explain like why that's scoring a point, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, there's first of all the point that, okay, so Ben isn't going to be the big bad of nine. I mean, like, yeah, as if he can be the big bad of nine. But, so Ben is not going to be the big bad of nine. It's going to be Palpatine. And there's also, the big question on whether, did Ben know that Palpatine was running around all along? Because there's evidence of it, that he might have known something, and it explains a lot of his more, how can I say, erratic actions.
Yeah, I would very dearly love for Ben Solo to be proven not crazy. Like, one of the actions that we're talking about is like talking to Vader's helmet.
Yes.
This is one of those things that it's like, oh, we can joke about, like, I've made the joke before that, like, oh, he's a pretty lonely guy if he's like sitting in his room alone talking to helmets. But like, that's a little cuckoo. So, if Anakin's Force Ghost has actually been consulting with him or had tried to appear to him at one point to warn him of Palpatine, that to an extent like legitimizes like kind of what he's doing. And I think there's an idea, and I don't know if I'm 100% on board, but there's an idea that like maybe Ben is like Revan from Knights of the Old Republic, in that like he went to the dark to assess his enemy, right? So like it's kind of like that art of war thing, like where you have to get to know, or it's like Ender's Game too, where like you really have to get to know your enemy before you can face and defeat them, right?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, the parallels between, like, Ben and Revan and Rey and Bastila, like, I know Pablo Hidalgo at some point said, like, oh, no, we're not taking inspiration from Knights of the Old Republic at all. And, from the moment he said that, I was calling big bullshit about that, and obviously I was right, because women always figure out the truth. But, yeah.
That's right.
So, because it would be interesting if, Ben went to the dark side precisely to understand his enemy better, because that was basically Anakin's mistake, because he didn't really know Palpatine. He just saw Palpatine as, this nice politician who's, like, really nice to me, and I'm like, kid, never trust a politician. Jesus Christ, that's, like, the rule number one in the adult world. But,
Yeah, never trust a politician.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, so just the fact that, Kylo talks to the helmet, I mean, just the fact that it kind of looked like a skull, like, we're immediately reminded of Hamlet, but, if Anakin appeared to Kylo using the helmet, that's totally Hamlet with his father's ghost, and, his father's ghost was there to warn her, like, oh, your mom and your uncle, like, they killed me so they could marry each other and blah blah blah. So it's a situation that's extremely similar to Hamlet here.
Oh yeah. And if they're gonna further allude to that, that I am like all for that. I'm really excited, and I know I'm going a little off the beat here, but I'm really excited about, like, I've been thinking about like what literary references are they going to bring into this one, because we have in the Force Awakens, we have allusion to Hamlet, we have allusion to with the music to Romeo and Juliet. When Kylo is taking Rey aboard a ship, we have allusion to with their whole starting when they meet each other, right? We have allusion to the Persephone myth, and then in the Last Jedi we have very very strong Milton influenced Paradise Lost allusion, and that original like Garden of Eden story. And so I really am excited about what literary references we're going to see in the third and final act. So if they bring Hamlet back around, that could be really interesting.
Someone like who did commented on Star Wars post on Reddit and said that basically they were going, well, among other things, that they were going to really go for the Hamlet themes, and that Ben was actually not going to be that bad of a ruler, which, I mean, obviously the First Order is going to have to go, but, basically it kind of already hinted that, there was something else behind, everything he was doing. So
yeah. Oh yeah. So why does this score, so back to why does this score us, or why does this get us back to a point scored for Benperor rather than Renperor? I think we had scored a point before when the rumor surfaced that they were doing like a 1-year time skip, right? Okay, so to explain, and this is, do you remember when the 1-year time skip rumor happened? I forget which month that happened in. I think it was in the fall, right?
Maybe, I have a very bad track of time, so I think it was around that time, though.
Yeah, early fall, maybe, or maybe September or something. Anyway, but when the rumor surfaced that it was a 1-year time skip, of course there were other rumors surfacing like a 5-year time skip or something stupid like that, which is no, that's just not going to happen. But a 1-year time skip. Oh, so the reason a 1-year time skip kind of scored us a point for Benperor rather than Renperor is because in that's 1 year where Kylo and Rey are basically separated, and they're both having to stew on those unresolved feelings that we see at the end of The Last Jedi, where Kylo is on his knees and looking up at Rey, and he's giving her the oh no, not the sofa face, and she closes the door on him. So the KotOR moment again. But so there's unresolved tension, dramatic tension there that has to be resolved in some form or fashion. So what we speculated on the Benperor versus Renperor podcast is for Team Benperor, it's okay, it's been a little while. We don't know how long, but it's been a span of time where he's basically just stewing in depression, stuck in bed eating his blue ice cream and
and listening to sad music.
So having yeah, curled up with his Darth Vader comfort sheets, not showering, just like he was at the beginning of The Last Jedi, which, by the way, he looks pretty unshowered. He looks like shit, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that
nobody kill me. I know we have a lot of Kylo loving listeners, but he looks like absolute ass in that.
Yeah.
And I think that's purposeful in the teaser.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of scored us a point initially, because it's a period of time where they're separated, and he has time to kind of be okay, well, if I'm not going to be doing this with her, then I kind of got to get my shit together and do it and maybe make some changes in the galaxy. Whereas if it started right off the bat with oh, this is a month after The Last Jedi, then it's he could still be in this super angry place where he's still trying to destroy the Resistance once and for all.
Yeah.
But a year is kind of a long time. So not too long for them to forget about each other.
Yeah. But even then, at the end of The Last Jedi, it was pretty clear to me that, all his anger had kind of cooled off. So, him pursuing the Resistance relentlessly in Episode 9, it didn't really fit for me, but, I was kind of preparing myself to be proven wrong, but apparently I will not be proven wrong. So, but yeah, I mean, there's kind of that whole thing, because there's the fact that he just looks so desperate on Crate, and he's just going crazy. But, come to think about it, if he did know about Palpatine, and that he knew that he needed Rey, he's probably thinking, okay, so Rey's on Luke's side. Luke is maybe influenced by Palpatine. I'm really fucked here.
Yeah.
I am so
seriously.
fucked.
Seriously, yeah. And it also kind of so, yeah. I forget which podcast this was. This has been so long ago. What is this, over a year ago? But I forget which podcast it was, but basically, I've expressed before that I think that in The Last Jedi, when Ben is having his join me speech, his Darth Darcy proposal, it sort of adds
Yeah.
legitimacy.
Totally did not rehearse that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So it totally adds legitimacy to like what I've said before is that the saber breaks rather than call to either of them, unlike the Force Awakens where it calls to Rey. And I don't know. I know that some people are like, "Oh, well, he was weakened then and she clearly had more power than him," but I just don't buy that. I think it's more to do with like whether they are at that time right in receiving the saber or not. And so in that moment, for whatever reason in the throne room, both of them were wrong about something and right about something. So they had like an equal claim to it. And so I think that Benperor, like, and I made this, okay, it must have been the Benperor podcast then, because like with Benperor, it legitimizes that like the saber not calling to either of them but breaking between them, because like I'm really curious about what he's right about. So if Palpatine is what he like, if him needing Rey to stand with him against Palpatine, like something that is more evil than this resistance versus first order squabble, then that would make sense as something that like he's in the right about, but she isn't. So does that make sense?
Because yes, absolutely. Because the way I saw the throne room fight and, the lightsaber breaking is that, well, I use that example all the time, but, it's kind of like in Mass Effect where you have, like, the Paragon choice versus the Renegade choice. So it's not always like that, but, the Paragon choice is basically the morally good choice, not necessarily the easiest or the most practical, but the morally good one. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's Rey. And the Renegade is basically, pragmatic. It's probably the most effective way of getting to what you want, but is it morally right? Not really. It's pretty ruthless, and for me, that's Ben.
Yeah, well, and like he reminds me of, okay, so like this is to do with my own video gaming habits when I play, but so not to go back to Knights of the Old Republic, this is actually like KotOR 2. There's a situation where like there's a homeless person and they're disease ridden, and you can either choose to heal them, or you can choose to this is so bad, like you can choose to influence them to end their life, and like whatever moral choice you make has consequences, like negative consequences. So if you influence them to commit suicide, that obviously like carries weight to it and pulls you closer to the dark side. If you choose to help them out and give them something, that influences other people. Actually, maybe it's not like that. This has been like 10 years since I played this. It might be that you are giving them food rather than healing them. But anyway, so technicalities here. But if you choose to do the good side thing and help them, like there are like other people swarm on them to take what they have.
Yes, I remember that. I remember it now.
And I think it's implied that they're killed anyway. Yeah, like you played this too,
yes,
so you know what I'm talking about. So like, but and then another of like my gaming habits being, or like my actual habit being like, okay, so like I will play as a light side character up to the point of if I have to choose between defeating an enemy and then using like a health pack or the force to heal myself versus killing someone by draining their life force and putting it into my own character, I will play the light side character up until I have the dark side choice of draining their life force and putting it into myself, because it's more efficient and it helps me beat the game faster, basically. And that's, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that's terrible. But like that's how like Ben Solo is like the pragmatist of the situation, right? So like he's kind of he strikes me as like a trolley problem person. Do you know what the trolley problem is?
I don't know that idiom, no.
Okay, so what? Should we explain it? Should we explain it to our listeners?
Je suis pas anglophone, fait que va falloir que tu me l'expliques, ouais. Basically, I said I'm not an English-speaking person, so you'll have to explain it to me.
Oh, okay. Like the trolley is basically, so like I think there's more detail than this, but like the trolley problem is basically that like you can either let the trolley crash and kill everyone, or you can push a button that kills one person but saves everybody else. So what do you do? Do you do the morally pure thing and just let everybody die?
Okay.
Or do you do the morally gray thing and like choose to kill one person but everybody else lives? What do you do? And so I think it's a good representation of like a character like Ben Solo, who, it seems like from what we're getting is possibly has gone to the dark side in order to learn how, and he's done like bad things in order to learn how to defeat the greater evil, which is Palpatine.
Yes. And it kind of makes me, wonder, with J.J. Abrams, who said that, light and dark are needed to defeat Palpatine. There are a lot of hints that, he knew that, Rey would be there and that, they would defeat Palpatine together, with all things like, what girl, or, it is you and...
What
yes,
girl?
And it is you and the novelization and everything. So it kind of makes me wonder, okay, so maybe he knew that dark and light would be needed to defeat Palpatine. So, maybe he took the plunge for Rey, so she wouldn't have to go through everything he's gone through.
Oh, yeah, like...
That would be so romantic.
Yeah, like he made himself like the sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Because his life has
been hell, and he endured it all because he didn't want her to be even more miserable. And you're like, oh my god, marry him.
I really hope the story ends up being that beautiful.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just really so obvious, and it's just the best way for the audience to, like, even those who didn't like him, like, to say, okay, you know what, you have a point there, you win.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, you have to do something to get your audience on, like, when you're doing a redemption arc, you have to be able to get your audience on that character's side, right? So, like, there are certain steps, and I know we've talked about this before in depth, but there are certain steps that you kind of have to take to get there. So, like, there's going to be a tragic backstory. So I think we're going to hear more of that. We've seen a lot of, like, his childhood in the novels, and I really hope that since, like, Leia seems to she features in this film as his mother, I hope that we see, like, her perspective of, him as a child. That would be one thing that I would hope for. And then I think that, let's talk about Lando.
Coolest uncle ever.
We're definitely seeing Uncle Lando. Lando's awesome. Okay, so that's another. Lando is so exciting. Like I think at this point it's like it's no big secret that I am a huge like Lando stan, in the way that some people are Boba Fett stans. Like he's kind of like, he's a side character, so it's like, well, why do you stand this character? But I don't know. I've just always, like, Leia, Han, Lando were my original favorite characters when I was a kid growing up. So to see Lando getting to have like this magnificent reprise is super exciting to me. But yeah, I think that Uncle Lando will have a huge influence, especially, and we'll research the information and figure out exactly which novel it is, but one of the Empire's End novels has Lando putting away like a blaster and a note for Ben in case he gets into any trouble. And so I feel like Lando and like Palpatine are two parts that, like, I feel like a big giant idiot for having read the novels and not I expected Lando, but for whatever reason, I just didn't put two and two together that Palpatine was actually going to play a big role in this.
Yeah, but, there was that reveal, like, a few weeks ago, like, that just came out of nowhere that, oh, Palpatine was actually the one who created Anakin by manipulating the Force and everything. And, I kind of knew it, so, I was happy that, oh, I was right about that, because that was actually one of my theories. But, I kind of assumed that they were announcing that because they're going to broadcast Season 7 of The Clone Wars this year. Ooh. So I was thinking, oh, it's probably because of that. But, I would have never thought that it was because Palpatine was going to show up in 9.
I wouldn't have either. I thought, see, okay, so these are things that I guess I kind of take things for granted, but I thought that Palpatine being like the quote unquote father of Anakin, by manipulating the Force, was like implied by the movies anyway. Like I didn't think that was a fan theory. I
Yeah.
thought that was like implied. You know what I mean? By the text.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think personally, I think it's pretty obvious to me in Revenge of the Sith that A, Palpatine created Anakin, and B, the reason why Vader actually manages to survive wounds that, would have killed anyone else, because there's only a certain amount of pain, or rather degree of pain, that, a human can endure. It was basically by taking Padme's life force and putting it all in Anakin. Like, those are two things that I think are pretty obvious, but they were never really confirmed until, a few weeks ago they confirmed that, Palpatine was Anakin's quote unquote father. So,
Yeah. Oh, this is so. Doesn't it feel nice to be proven right?
oh, yes, all the time. It's especially satisfying when, you're a student and it's like everything you'll put in like an essay, like it's never good enough for the teacher, and you're like, you know what? I should show you my Star Wars analysis one of these days.
Yeah, I remember when I was an undergraduate. So like you're like we were talking about before, like we actually started recording. Like you just finished your third year. You're about to do your senior year, right, of your baccalaureate. And I remember being.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, basically, I was just going to say that the bachelor's degree in Canada, well, especially in the program I am, it's 3 years, and I basically finished my second year. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Uh, so here in the
Yeah,
States,
it's a bit different.
yeah, in the States, they're typically, well, I mean, like you can hurry and complete them in 3 years, but they're typically 4 years. So, but,
Yeah. No, it's fine, because, like, education really varies from one country to another, and I know something about it.
yeah, that's true. Um, like, I remember being, an undergraduate and doing like all of my, so like for those who don't know, I'm a psychology, my bachelor's degree is in psychology, and I very nearly had a double major in English, but I, transferred universities and ended up just doing like an English minor. But I have nearly enough credits to have an English, like a double English major. But I remember doing my undergraduate degree, and you'd analyze like movies and literature and whatever, but especially when you were doing movies and you try to talk to people who are casual moviegoers, I guess, or who think that like because and this is not to apply to everyone, like not everybody's like this, but sometimes you encounter people who think that they know everything there is to know about movies just because they've feel like movies are catered to the or like shows or whatever are catered to them, and you bring up a point about a story that's like based in literary analysis and they're like, oh, that's ridiculous. But then like to have points like that actually qualified by the professionals who are doing the stories is always like really gratifying. So I think that was like one of those, I feel like that's a point scored. Like there's so much, like what I was saying, there's so much that you take for granted when you're analyzing stories, that when someone says like, oh yeah, this is this, if you have a bad experience in fandom, which both of us do, right?
Yes.
Because we
Yeah.
met at the same well. But if you have a bad experience in fandom, then it's like, yes, the actual storytellers agree with me and I know what I'm talking about, versus like, versus like if you have not had a bad experience in fandom or with other people, like with like casual moviegoers, you kind of tend to take things for granted, like, oh, I just thought they were implying that, or oh, I thought that they were, that was something that we were supposed to infer anyway. But other people might take a completely like 180 degree turn to what you think you saw in a story. So anyway.
Yeah, well, just to finish that point, at the risk of getting kind of political, there's kind of the fact that I've noticed that when it comes to male demographies in fandom, there's kind of like that culture of manage your expectations that I've noticed is very dominant in, female dominating fandoms, or, fandoms that have a lot of, minorities in it, and them, or and everything. There's kind of like this manage your expectations mantra that is very present in Reylo, like in the Reylo fandom, especially today, like even with The Last Jedi and everything. And if I look at, the male side of fandoms, like there's not that at all, because they're just so used to getting everything they expect from a movie. And, I think that's what there are a lot of reasons why people didn't like The Last Jedi. I don't want to get into that. But I think one of the reasons why a lot of fanboys didn't like it is because they, for once, didn't get exactly what they usually expect to see. So it kind of completely makes them lose their marbles, if I can say it that way.
Well, yeah, because like it's not catered to them. It is from the outset, whereas like The Force Awakens appeals to nostalgia. So nostalgia, though, the male audience is going to recognize that, like, oh, this is from my childhood. Like, I mean, the female audience does too, but they're used to that hero's journey of Luke Skywalker. And when you compare that to a heroine's journey like Rey's, they're not the same thing. And so they use like motifs and archetypes differently. Exactly. And so you're like, the story, a heroine's journey is not catered to a male audience. It's catered to an audience of, because like the heroine's journey, and it's funny we talk about this because I'm actually putting together, I got news recently that I get to do an honors English class next year, and I'm so excited about it. Like teach it. So
oh my god, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm super excited. I'm like excited beyond words, and I'm also like tenured now, so yay, all kinds of excitement. But yes, so I am I'm like preparing in earnest for this class, and my standards now include like archetypes. So I'm like, yes, we're gonna learn about the heroes and the heroine's journey this year, and it's super exciting. But a hero and a heroine's journey, like, because they're both written as though the society that the audience is a part of is a patriarchal society. And so the journey that a heroine would undergo in a patriarchal society is different than a hero's journey. And it can apply to, it's not just like, it's funny because we've talked about this before, like, and I think before, like, somebody had the question, could a non-female character could a male character go on a heroine's journey? And I think we said, like, oh, I haven't really seen that before, but yes, technically it could happen. Since then, go ahead. I'm gonna let you take this one.
Yeah, and I'm really ashamed of this, but like, the only male character I could see like getting a heroine's journey, while the female character, kind of gets a weird jumble of heroine's journey with hero's journey. So male character with heroine's journey, that would be Raoul from the Phantom of the Opera, not the musical or the 2004 movie I think most people are familiar with. Right. Really the original novel by Gaston Leroux. And, the thing is, like, Raoul is probably one of the most hated characters in literature outside of France, just because, but my ship, he's getting in the way of my ship. But I think the problem that, a lot of people have with him is that in many ways he's kind of feminine coded without being like effeminate either. And that kind of sets off people because he's not like the kind of love interest you usually encounter in, Gothic horror stories, and that's intentional because Phantom of the Opera, what a lot of people forget about is that it's pretty much deconstruction of Gothic horror tropes, but it does it very well at the same time. But I'm not gonna get into Phantom of the Opera because I'm gonna go on for hours. But yeah.
So for the person who asked before, and I think we addressed this on like our Voltron podcast, was the question was like, could a male character have a heroine's journey? And we said we had never seen it before, but like upon further thought, yes, there is potentially a male character who does have a heroine's journey. But that leads us to our point of like a heroine's journey in theory doesn't necessarily have to have a female lead, and here's why: because it applies to marginalized people. Like it's for marginalized people, so like people who
Yes,
are,
exactly.
yeah, so in a patriarchal, and I would even go so far as to say probably like a white driven society, it's going to be a character who is like, it could be someone who is like gay or who is like disabled or who is of a marginalized race or a marginalized like transgender, somebody who is like the outsider in society basically could go on a heroine's journey, because that's what the themes of that journey deal with, is like being someone who is on the outskirts of society. And if you're going to be a hero in the story rather than a passive observer, then this is the journey that you undertake in order, like throughout, and it's like, it's secular or secular. How do I say that? How is that pronounced? Secular?
I think. I think.
So anyway, like this happens like over and over again throughout this person's lifetime, is that you have to go on this journey in order to continuously adapt to the society that views you as the other. That's what a heroine's journey is about. So naturally, it's going to be different from a hero's
Yes.
journey, and that's what Rey is on, is a heroine's journey. So, but how we relate this to the preview, so the teaser trailer? Do you have any ideas about that?
Well, honestly, we actually don't get that much information about Rey in the teaser, because I honestly, when it comes to Ben, Palpatine, and everything that's gonna fall out from it, like Rey is still a big question mark, because, well, I mean, obviously, I mean, she's eventually going to side with Ben, and they're gonna defeat Palpatine, and they're gonna live happily ever after, with lots of, little babies and stuff. We all want that, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna get that at this point. But, it's kind of more like knowing, like, how is she going to react to this? To what extent Ben knows about Palpatine and what he wants to do, because, like, my guess is that he knows about Palpatine, but he doesn't really know any specifics. So, it's kind of to see how she's going to react to it. And I'm gonna say this, and no offense to people listening to us and who just really like Rey, Finn, and Poe together. Like, if it makes you happy, I'm very happy for you. But when I saw like the teaser and what was going to come, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, thank God Rey's not going to spend the entire movie being the cool girl in Finn and Poe's bro game.
I mean, like, okay, and so this is where we can talk about the heroine's journey too, because like Poe and Finn, like, they are her bros that she gathered as allies, which is a step in the heroine's journey, right? So like they're her allies, but they are like found family, right? So that's different from and distinct from her uniting with her like animus / shadow figure, which is Kylo / Ben. So yeah. So yeah, I think too, I agree. Like it's kind of it's like a whew, that's a weight off the chest. Like, yes, she's going to at some point separate from them, which she would naturally do, and go spend some developmental time with her like animus shadow figure, right?
The way you said it made it so suggestive unintentionally.
What part was suggestive? Oh, spend some time, like go off on her own and spend some time with.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact wording, but my mind immediately went there.
Okay.
It just kind of sounds like, it's like, it sounds like the girl who like goes to church, and everyone at church admires her because she's like the model everyone has to follow and everything, but like no, at night she just sneaks out of her house and she goes on the beach with the local bad boy.
Well, we already know she does that from Octo in The Last Jedi, so because Luke caught them.
Yeah, and she was like with nuns, you know.
I love that they're nuns. It's so funny.
Yeah, and you know, you kind of expect them to like break into song singing like, you know, instead of singing like how do you solve a problem like Maria, they just sing how do you solve a problem like Rey.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she very much is like that type of character, isn't she? She's a Maria, right?
Yeah.
And like he is the
Yes. Oh my, I don't believe I never realized that. Oh my god. She is. Oh my god.
She's a problem like Maria.
Now I want Julie Andrews as Rey. Like
and instead of the captain,
Yeah.
he's the Benperor, right?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Because now I'm thinking of, you know, all those people saying like, oh, Kylo Ren's a space Nazi. How dare you see he's like Captain Von Trapp.
Oh my gosh. I think they're confusing him with...
We're gonna start a gate. People are going to want our podcast banned from YouTube because we compare Kylo Ren to Captain Von Trapp.
And now our viewers really will kill me because like what if the Von Trapp like children are Broom Boy and his cohorts? And I'm just kidding though. It's not Broom Boy. God, let it not be Broom.
Oh my god. Does that mean one of the kids is gonna end up like dating one of the First Order like cadets or anything or something? It's gonna end up in drama or some shit.
I hope not. Let him be the symbol at the end of The Last Jedi that goes away.
Francis.
Ugh. Well, anyway. Oh, okay. So, like, speaking of Kylo and Rey, maybe we should talk about like their little maneuver at the beginning of the teaser. Yeah.
I'm saying that they're training until I'm proven out otherwise.
Yeah, and so like we have a friend who is unnamed because they actually work in the industry. They don't work for like Lucasfilm or anything, but they work in the movie industry with visual effects and art. So they're going to go unnamed, but they're a good friend of ours since our whole endeavor into The Force Awakens and Redemption and all that stuff began. But they had some really interesting analysis that we're not going to go into the full analysis, but basically what they have said is, and why we believe this to be a training montage rather than him attacking her, which would be really dumb because he's not shooting at her. But anyway, what they have essentially said is that you can tell from the visual effects that this is shot at two different times of day, at least two different times of day. So, and that is purposeful. And some of the like false effects are matched to the time of day that they would want the sequence to take place in. And so, like, if it's supposed to be like, for instance, at 3:00, then the visual effects match that. So, and then it's not like they were just filming for a long time. It's that somebody purposely put in the visual effects for it to look like basically 3:00. And then later in the evening, we have like, say like a 7:00. So in other words, you can tell from the lighting that is put into the scenes that they are actually scenes that are from different times of day, and that's purposeful. It's not just that they've been filming all day and are trying to get the same scene from a very long shoot. This is purposefully done. So this is why we are led to believe that this is probably a training sequence between the two of them. So I wonder what they could be training for.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but there was concept art of, you know, like the Rey character in like an X-Wing or something, and she was slicing a Star Destroyer from underneath with her lightsaber. So I don't know, because they are using a lot of concepts from The Force Awakens, you know, like the underwater Death Star and everything. So I kind of wonder if that is going to come back. Ben is extra enough to have his girlfriend ride on his ship and, slice ships from underneath.
He would totally do that.
Yeah. And he'd be like in his timing, go, "You're doing great, sweetie."
Yeah. I wonder how many times they had to practice before they finally land the move.
Yeah, and I mean, if Ray almost, like, falls flat on his tire or whatever, he just gets out of his tire real quick and, she just lands in his arm and he just uses the force doing that, like, real smooth.
Well, whatever they're training for, it seems like it's going to be very, very exciting, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, especially that, come to think of it, especially with the Palpatine reveal, some people will say, oh, they won't get together until, like, the third act of the movie, but, come to think of it, like, the plot can't really move forward if, they don't get together. Like, I'm thinking that they're going to team up, like, end of Act 1, something like that, because otherwise I'm like, seriously, what can they do during the rest of the movie?
I agree with that. I think it's got to be toward like the end of Act 1, beginning of Act 2. And, of course, there's still room for a lot of character growth there, but I would expect them to be together for a pretty significant amount of the movie since we've seen Palpatine. Or since we've heard him, rather. We know he's back.
Yeah. And, well, it's not really related to the trailer, but it's something that I've been thinking about recently. So it seems like, from pictures we've seen at the episode 9 panel that, Rose got a promotion, so good for her. She deserves it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes! So I'm kind of wondering if they gave her a promotion partly because she might fill up Leia's role, in a sense that she might be the one who actually, knows most of the story about Rey and Ben, while, Finn and Poe are kind of oblivious to it. And since she's higher up, she's the one who's kind of, like, backing both of them and making sure that, they don't get into too much trouble. So, and, basically that, if Leia had been, well, if they could, like, have more of Leia, if Carrie Fisher had lived, like, that would have basically been Leia's role rather than Rose. So, I was kind of thinking about that, basically. And that might explain why, we don't really see Rose hanging out with Finn and Poe, but, at the same time, it still gives her an important role regardless, so, yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I think you're probably onto something there. And I would also, either way, I really hope that she has some, meaningful scenes with Rey so that we get that, girl-girl interaction that we don't see a whole lot in these movies.
Yeah, especially that I look at them, I look at their personalities, what they like, and I'm like, seriously, those girls are made to be friends.
They are. They have the makings of besties, and I love it.
Yeah. Is there anything else we want to add about episode 9, the teaser, or whatever, or is that all?
I think I'm good for now. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good too. And obviously, we're gonna see some things coming up in the next few months. But I just want to put that out there. We're gonna get probably another trailer in October, and we're gonna find out more things with media coverage and everything. So I'm personally very excited because if they're gonna reveal Palpatine in a teaser, what else are they gonna tell us? So. Exactly. I have a bit of Star Wars fan fatigue in the last few months, but this teaser actually really made me happy, and nothing is gonna stop me now.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited too.
So on that note, thanks again for listening to us. Okay, so you can find us on Twitter, Tumblr, and please subscribe to us on YouTube. It's always very appreciated, and let us know what you thought in the comments. What theories do you have about 9? Are you excited? So yes, I hope you all have a lovely day. Happy Easter to anyone who celebrates it, because we're recording this on the Saturday before Easter. So have a lovely day or night, whatever you are, and may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.